So today I want to talk about mobile games. I want to talk about mobile gaming in general. I'm going to start with a little financial background, and then we're going to talk about games. We're going to talk about why mobile gaming is popular, and then we're going to talk about some of the critics' complaints about mobile gaming. So the first thing here is mobile gaming is a massive industry. In 2022, there was $110 billion spent in game app stores. Now, the next couple of slides are going to have different dollar amounts. There's no singular source for this, but you can see 90 billion new game downloads. Average phone user is using their phone for 5 hours a day. And the mobile ad spend is going to be $336 billion, and it's going to just keep growing. So mobile is a booming industry. It's not going anywhere. Big thing here in 2023, 184 billion was generated by video games. Mobile games is 49% of that, and that's $90.5 billion. With that said, we look at the rest of it. Mobile games generated 90 billion. Console games only generated 53. PC games only generated 38. And browser games generated 1.9. When we break this down a little bit further, we can see that PC is almost completely digital now. And we can see that the console market is 83% digital. The PC market being mostly digital is definitely why you're starting to see companies take their mobile game and make a PC application for it, and they're kind of dressing a mobile game up as a PC game, because why not? 99% of PC games are digital downloads anyway. If you look up Global Data's report, which you might find, you'll find that they're reporting mobile gaming revenue was worth 124 billion in 2023. China was the outright leader with 31% of that. United States is second with 17. So mobile's just too big now for people to be believing it's going to go away. People need to stop believing that PC gamers and console gamers need to get together to get rid of mobile gamers, because they're the biggest cut of the party. You can see here, all eyes on mobile. Ad spend set to hit 362 billion in 2023. I don't know if it actually hit that, but we do know that short form content is getting more popular, and we know that people want a cut of that advertising revenue. We'll get back to this in a minute. Which game subgenres defy global trends? This is an absolutely insane number to me. Honor of Kings made $1.2 billion. A phone game made $1.2 billion. Creative Sandbox game led growth in gaming hours spent. If you look at Roblox, 4.6 billion hours on Roblox mobile. There's only 8,760 hours in a year. That means there were 525,000 years of Roblox mobile played. Now, I know some people are going to turn around and say, Jay, that can't possibly be mobile. I actually didn't believe it myself. I went and vetted that. In 2023, children and teenagers in the United States spent an average of 140 minutes playing Roblox games via their mobile device. That is actually the mobile number. That is insane. Mobile should be making way more money. People are spending a lot of time when they're kids on their phone, because that means when they grow up, they're going to be the type of consumer that spends money on their phone. If you take a head-to-head comparison of some IPs, a mobile version versus a PC version, what we're going to get is we're going to get Diablo Immortal versus Diablo 4. Now, before I even flip the slide, everyone should know that Diablo 4 is going to win this stand-up fight. Diablo 4 makes more in 5 days than Immortal has in a year. Diablo Immortal's microtransaction scheme has been heavily criticized. It made less money in an entire year than Diablo 4 made in 5 days. Well, it should. It's, a mobile game going head-to-head versus a PC game. It took more than 6 years to develop Diablo 4. Mike Ybarra. It took more than a decade to go from concept to launch. In the Windows credits at Moby Games, there are 9,225 people credited in professional roles of having worked on Diablo 4, which means it had a much larger production price tag. Now, I don't want to say that there were 9,000 developers. Of those 9,000 people in audio roles were 2,464. And Blizzard employees have come out and said not everybody credited on the game actually worked on Diablo 4. Some people are credited, and they actually are credited because they're part of the company. And that's fine, but I don't think that takes away from the fact that Diablo 4 had a much larger budget. Diablo Immortal allegedly cost only $11.7 million to make, and on an $11.7 million investment, they made $525 million in a year. Diablo 4 allegedly cost $100 million to develop, not including a roughly $70 million marketing budget, and they made $666 million in a week, and they made over $1 billion total as of August of last year. Blizzard doesn't publicize their quarterly earnings, but as you can see here, yeah, Diablo 4, a PC game, absolutely, and console game, absolutely crushed Diablo Immortal, but the profit margin is a lot to look at. If Diablo Immortal made $525 million on an $11 million investment, then it made $1 billion on a $22 million investment. And when you times that by 5, you see where I'm going with this? Now, I know there's a video out there about a guy who spent $100,000 on Diablo Immortal just to charge it all back. Completely different topic, but feel free to comment on that one if you want. So that brings us, no, companies won't move to just doing mobile. But man, mobile is an attractive pie to want to get a slice of. I mean, if you think about it, if a company can make a handful of mobile games, get some money in the bank, now they can fund a bigger, larger PC game. Why is mobile so popular? I mean, obviously at 49% of all the video game industry money, there's a lot of people who like mobile. And I know some of you are going to say, well, that's grandma playing Candy Crush. She's not really a gamer. Well, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. But the numbers, the stats, we can't cherry pick what we want to look at. But attention span is a big reason why mobile is so popular. I know some of you know that attention spans are dwindling. Computer scientists and psychologists have been studying attention spans for 20 years, over which time the average time that a person can focus on one thing has dropped from around 2.5 minutes to 45 seconds. Now, I know what you're going to say to me. You're going to quote the Time magazine article. You may not even know it's Time magazine. And you're going to say, no, Jay, the average attention span is 8.25 seconds. Well, luckily, that's not true. It's also not true that you have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. If you want to get into some actual academic work, there's the academic citation up there. But anybody that's familiar with TED Talks have a key stipulation. Speakers are not allowed to speak for more than 18 minutes. I need to take this advice sometimes. The rule dictating 18 minutes is based on the notion that 18 minutes is long enough to have a serious presentation, but short enough to hold a person's attention. You'll also get this out of education books. Lectures should adhere to a 10 to 15 minute attention span that is characteristic. In the modern book Tools for Teaching, Davis states student attention during lectures tends to wane after approximately 10 to 15 minutes. You also have typically attention increases from the beginning of the lecture to the 10 minutes, and then it decreases after the 10-minute part. Well, what we have here is we're comparing two groups, and you can compare any two things, but should you? You're comparing college students to gamers. You're comparing academics to entertainment. And I'm not 100% sure if we want to do that. We certainly can, but we need to remember that the Time magazine article has reached way more publicity, has gone a lot more places because people want these numbers, because they want to say things like make short form content because people only have an 8-second attention span. Or they say you got to grab somebody's attention in the first 10 seconds of your video because people only have a 10-second attention span. Well, if they only had a 10-second attention span, why are you making content longer than 10 seconds? TikTok, we all know that TikTok had the recipe for success, short form content, so much so that YouTube copied it and made 59-second shorts. Now, for today's video, what I did was I jumped into Final Fantasy XIV, and what you're going to see here in the background is this is at ×6 speed. And when I jumped into an MMORPG, I spent approximately 15 minutes doing one dungeon. So doing one thing, which is fine. Dungeon runs in the old days used to take 30 to 45 minutes to get to the dungeon, 2, 3, 4 hours to do the dungeon because you had wipes, you had respawns, you had ghost runs. Now, Final Fantasy XIV has it basically down to a 15-minute bite of entertainment. Now, I've run this initial dungeon probably 1,000 times. I didn't really get a dopamine hit out of it, and we'll talk about dopamine in a second. Basically, what I saw was 3 new players. They're all sprouts. They needed help, so I spent 15 minutes doing one thing. Sounds pretty good. Now, the interesting part is, also for this video, I went into AFK Journey. Now, AFK Journey is not sponsoring this video. They're not paying me to make this video. I was doing a campaign for them last week, and I'm actually fascinated by the story. It's a strategic level, basically a quasi card collecting game, hero collecting game. You don't control the battles. But what I noticed in a 15-minute time span, I did 32 different tasks. I did 32 different things. I went into this menu, I collected this reward, I checked on this box, I collected this piece of mail, I opened this, I upgraded this equipment, I got this new hero, I did this, I did that. In 15 minutes, as you can see, I'm upgrading heroes here, and each one of those is like a little dopamine hit. So much so that I had only dedicated 15 minutes this morning to this part of the video. And before I realized it, I had spent 45 minutes playing because I was enjoying myself. Now, some people would say, oh, well, you're not going to enjoy yourself in Final Fantasy because you're replaying the old content. When the new DLC comes out, when the new expansion pack comes out, of course, you'll be having more fun. And I'm not disputing that. In fact, I'm agreeing with you. But I think there's something to mobile games where they always have you shifting. They always have you moving. I think they've captured the essence of the short attention span. That's why nothing takes a lot of time. You get these little vignette stories. You get 2 characters talking to each other. And you get like, I get it. It's the flashy lights, and we're going to talk about why. But you feel like you're always accomplishing something. And I think that's something we can't dismiss. Now, mobile is popular because of dopamine, right? Mobile games, constant supply of dopamine. Lots of little goals, lots of dopamine rewards. For those of you not familiar with psychology, here's your happy chemistry brain. You have oxytocin, which is your love chemical, petting an animal, physical touch, helping others, socializing. When you do those things, you get oxytocin. You got your serotonin. This is when you're being mindful, you're reflecting, you're meditating, you're doing your yoga, you're going out into the sun, you're doing your nature walk. You get your serotonin. You've got your endorphins. This is when you're listening to music, you're exercising, you're laughing. Laughter is the best medicine because it releases natural painkillers. Then, of course, you got dopamine. When you get enough sleep, when you take a bath, when you eat food that you enjoy, you get dopamine hits. But also, when you achieve a goal, you get a hit of dopamine. Now, the interesting thing here is that in the DSM-5, there is internet gaming disorder, IGD-1. And you're going to see all these symptoms, all these things: inability to reduce playing, giving up other activities, loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities, continuing to game despite problems, deceiving family members or others about the amount of time or money spent on gaming, the use of gaming to relieve negative moods, which I don't really understand, except when they say guilt and hopelessness. Okay, I get that. If you're gaming because you're hopeless, probably not a good combination. Losing a job or at risk of losing a job due to your gaming. But here's the big one. Withdrawal symptoms when gaming is taken away or not possible, and you have sadness, anxiety, or irritability. You're really not addicted to gaming. You're addicted to that constant, steady supply of dopamine that you can no longer get by doing other activities because the dopamine hits don't come as quickly. For example, you used to play pickup basketball with your friends, but you're not that good. So you don't score a lot. They don't pass you the ball a lot. Not only are you not getting dopamine, you're feeling bad. You're feeling sad. Well, when you're gaming, you can control your destiny. So that's that dopamine hit. You have your cheap dopamine and your real dopamine. Your cheap dopamine is binging TV, alcohol, drugs, junk food, social media, gambling. If you're ever sad and you send out 10 text messages looking for somebody to text you back. You hear your phone ding, you pick it up, dopamine hit because somebody replied to you. But that's cheap dopamine. Real dopamine is new experiences. Like I said, shifting from one foot to the next, doing those new things, leveling 10 times, unlocking new content you haven't seen before. New hero in the store. What do? New mystery box. What's in it? Going outside, sun, rest, sleep, exercise, working on your goals. The interesting thing here is your brain does not care if the goal is a goal in an MMORPG, a goal in a mobile game, or a goal in the real world. If you say to yourself, my goal is to level 10 times in AFK Journey today, and you do that, dopamine hit, man, it's a real dopamine hit. Why do critics dislike mobile games? Predatory monetization. I don't think anybody's going to disagree that the biggest complaint about mobile games is the predatory monetization. Now, if you learn something about dopamine today, you might turn around and say, well, I think the dopamine section is why I don't like them. And I would agree with you. Establishing your game to make people addicted, so much so that the American Psychological Association has now included internet gaming addiction in the DSM-5, and the European doctors and the rest of the world doctors have all included it in the ICD-11. Absolutely. I think your average casual gamer, though, that doesn't nerd out like me, is going to say predatory monetization. You're going to say intrusive ads. You're going to say this isn't a game, it's an ad in a game wearing a trench coat. And I'd agree with you. There are many mobile games in the Play Store that are simply, you have 2 spins, watch an ad, you get 5 spins, you use your 5 spins, watch an ad. Why are they doing the game like that? Because they want their cut of that $336 billion mobile ad spending. Or you're going to say they nickel and dime you. There's a lot of small transactions. And I'm not going to make excuses even for the game I like. AFK Journey probably has 9 different store menus. You can play the whole game without it, but they have 99 cents here, 99 cents there, 99 cents there, and it's predatory. It is what it is. If we're going to talk about intrusive ads, though, let's talk about EA. Let's talk about this guy right here. On an earnings call, EA CEO Andrew Wilson was asked about dynamic ad insertion into AAA games, and his reply was, I think it's still early on that front. But we have teams internally in the company right now looking at how we do very thoughtful implementations inside of our game experiences. I'd like you to stop right now, and I'd like you to leave a comment. And I would like you to tell me what is an acceptable implementation of advertising in a video game that you paid a box price for. How can a game company do that thoughtfully? Okay, you've had enough time to pause the video and leave your comment. I don't understand how we're going to do thoughtful implementation. I think this is the next example of AAA or quadruple A studios basically looking at the gamer population and being like, you're so stupid. This is a quadruple A game. Prices have to go up. We need to put advertising in the game. Okay. I don't want to judge the book by its cover. But I don't know what a thoughtful implementation is going to look like. So I'm really hoping for some good comments because maybe there's a perspective I don't see. So if intrusive ads are why you don't like mobile games, PC games and console games are going to be getting them. What about nickel and diming? What about Guild Wars 2? In Guild Wars 2, there's a bank tab expansion that costs 480 gems. You can have 16 of these because the number of bank tabs is 17. So it would cost you 7,680 gems to max out. Now, I know somebody's going to say, but there's other ways to get it. Sure. But we're only looking at the apples to apples, right? If here's the pricing of the gems, it'll cost you roughly $100 to max out your bank tabs if you just want them all right away. And Guild Wars 2 isn't the only company that does this. ESO has expansions. ArcAge used to have expansions. Revelation Online had expansions. I think BDO has expansions. Nickel and diming cash shop transactions aren't new to mobile gaming. In fact, Little Brother mobile gaming is just copying what Big Brother has been doing. Or maybe Big Brother is copying off of Little Brother's homework. But either way, I can't accept an idea that you don't like mobile gaming because of nickel and diming. if PC gaming and console gaming is doing it. So if you have another reason why you don't like mobile gaming, please leave it as a comment, because I'd like to know why people don't like it. Ideal monetization. I used to say that the best ideal monetization was box price and no ads, and a cosmetic cash shop, and maybe a subscription. But I think the subscription should now be maybe an optional battle pass or some minor paywall. And what I mean by a minor paywall is, say you can recall to your house in the game, then players who don't buy the optional subscription can recall maybe 3 times a day, and players who have the subscription can unlimited recall. But that's pay to win, sure, but you gotta put something winning, valuable in the subscription for people to buy it. And when I say a minor paywall, something like you can only get 2 drops of gear from a particular dungeon a week, no matter if you sub or not. But if you sub, you can run the dungeon as many times a day as you want. And if you don't sub, you could run it maybe 3 times a day. You still aren't paying to get more gear. You're just paying to have the opportunity to get that gear earlier in your reset week. Now, if you know me, you know that I used to say that the best monetization was a box price and a mandatory sub. But recently, the idea of subscription fatigue came up, and it's not my idea. Asmongold reviewed my Arcage video, my Rise and Fall of Arcage video, and in it, he talked about subscription fatigue. And he was talking about people don't want to have a subscription to 3 or 4, 5 MMOs. But what he talked about, he took it a step further and he said, people have their MMO subscriptions and then they have their online services like Amazon Prime and Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus and, HBO Max and whatever else. But he took it an even step further and he said people have monthly commitments like their phone bill and their car insurance and their internet bill and their utilities and their rent. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't agree that people should be blending their life needs list and their entertainment list, but I definitely think there's something to people are becoming against subscriptions, so that might not be the best monetization. So as I'm working on that video, that's another one. If you want to leave a comment, what do you think about subscription fatigue? Do you think subscription fatigue is a real phenomenon? Is that why you're hesitant to pay a monthly sub? Or is there something else that we need to talk about, something else we need to factor? Final thoughts here. Mobile isn't going away. $90 billion industry is not going to go away. It's not going to be the PC gamers and the console gamers getting rid of mobile. Mobile is concreted in. PC consoles are just as bad. If you didn't see what Helldivers did, Arrowhead and Sony, the video's up there. There's a lot we can learn from Sony and just their inability to relate to their customers or not even know that their network isn't available in like 177 countries. Play the game that's right for you. I've noticed, and I'm guilty of this myself, so I'm the first person that's guilty of it, and I'm trying to change my ways. I don't have to negatively talk about your game unless I have genuine negative opinions of your game. I can tell you why I don't play your game or why I don't want to, but a rising tide lifts all boats, but a sinking ship only sinks itself. If I don't like your game, that's fine, but don't validate your choices based on other viewpoints. If you spend an hour and a half on the train each day, play a mobile game. And if people say, oh, you're this insult because you play mobile games, who cares? Play what makes you happy. Play what you have time to play. Don't say, oh, mobile games are bad because a talking head on YouTube said it's bad. If you don't like mobile games, don't play mobile games. If you like mobile games, play mobile games. If you think mobile games are a problem, don't attack the person playing the mobile game. Attack the problem. If you think there's other things to be critical of, what are they? And let's talk about those. And let's keep those things out of PC games and console games. But then let's get rid of them out of mobile games too, and then we'll have more games to enjoy. You guys take care. I'm sorry I went over my TED Talk limit.